Right, looks like we're being live streamed now. Okay, so we should be good to go. Welcome to everybody, and especially welcome to Katie Carmichael, as it's the first time as her committee advisor. So we're glad to have you. Due to COVID, obviously, this meeting is being live streamed. All members participating via audio video conference will count for the purpose of the meeting. The meeting will be live streamed all the way through, and you can get it via our YouTube channel. The meeting will also be recorded, and subject to the recording being of suitable quality, we'll make it available on this channel. As I've said before, giving the interest in the chair's report, I'm going to follow this so that it directly follows the community board minutes. Now, I'm sad to say that Amy has tendered her resignation. I know she's got an important year ahead of her next year, and she doesn't feel she's going to have the time to participate. So I'd like to thank her for all the work that she's done for the community board, and wish her every success next year.
I'd like to second that. Yeah. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Amy.
Extraordinary business. I'd like to move that the financial assistance report is added to the agenda as item 8.6 for the purposes of considering a grant application from Cobblestones Trust. That arrived too late to go on the agenda. Oh, no, it wasn't included due to an administrative error. It wasn't late, but it can't be delayed to the next meeting as the event is being held on the 17th of February, one day after our proposed next meeting. Do I have a seconder to include this? Thank you. Although, sorry, do I have a proposer?
Oh.
And a seconder, thank you. So I've got Shelley proposing and Alistair seconding. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Anyone against? Motion is carried. We've received an update from officers on the removal of the elm trees from Wood Street, and this also was tabled after the agenda was finalised. It was requested under item 9.1, the chair's report, and we can discuss it under this report. Hopefully, the person will be present. Stefan, you are present. Thank you. Welcome. Is there any other extraordinary business that needs to be added to the agenda? Okay. We've got one apology, Graham Gray. He's in Taupo, and he may come back too late. If he gets back within the next couple of hours, he will join the meeting late. So can I move the apology from Graham Gray, please? Thank you. Alistair seconded Rebecca Fox. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Anyone against? Motion is carried. Are there any conflicts of interest with regards to anything on the agenda tonight? Item 4, acknowledgements and tributes. Does anybody have any acknowledgements or tributes they want to make? Okay.
Madam Chair, if I could acknowledge the passing of Wendy Cameron from Udi Street, who's lived there for about 20 years after retiring from her farm, and I know she'll be sorely missed in the community.
Thank you. Yeah. We'll move to item 5, which is public participation. We've got 5 speakers tonight, and each will be given 5 minutes to speak. Katie will raise a finger to the camera when the speaker has 1 minute left, and make a tick at the when the 5 minutes is up. So, welcome to the speakers, and the first one to go is Anita Williams from the Wahine River Fund. Anita, you have 5 minutes.
Hello, right. You've got the maps, right?
Okay, my name's Anita Williams. I represent my family who own and live on the property at 2466 State Highway 2 on the corner of Hupanui Road. Pinehaven's here and the Big Apple's here. I'm sure you know that. Please refer to the brown zones on the maps, which indicate a change in peak depth of 0.1 to 0.5. These GWRC maps show that the North Street stop banks will raise the water levels of up to a half a metre, flooding over half our property, including our house and outbuildings, which are all in the brown zone. Our concern is not only will floodwaters inundate our property, but more crucially, even the threat of the flood proposals will devastate the market value of our property should we need to sell or remortgage it. The mere prospect of the Waihini River flood plan has raised three immediate issues. First is insurance. The heightened awareness of the flood bank could render our property uninsurable. This in turn would severely limit our ability to remortgage our property. Secondly, the market value and saleability of our property. Our 200-metre square house is in the peak depth zone, the brown zone, and would be inundated by a moderate flood event. However, real estate agents say that even the prospect of this proposed flood plan has rendered our property almost unsaleable. Third issue is liability. What is GWRC's and SWDC's liability to protect our home if the property is damaged or flooded because of the GWRC's Waihini River flood plan? Most our neighbours seem more aware of this flood risk to their properties than us, but seem less concerned because their houses were built in the last 10 to 20 years to the higher 1.8 metre floor level covenants. Our house was built in the 1970s. In summary, we believe that the regional council, has not adequately consulted with us about the river plan, the flood plan, nor has either of the councils responded to us about our concerns when clearly we will be severely affected by the flood plan. We wanted on record our request for consultation without further delay regarding the issues I've mentioned. Finally, and most importantly, we do realise the flood plan is important to Greytown, and we certainly do not want to be the thorn in the side of progress to help save Greytown properties. We know that. We don't want to be the little old lady holding up the motorway, right? However, the current flood plan proposal effectively makes us a sacrificial lamb because we stand to lose our life assets to subsidise the value of all Greytown properties. Please consult with us. Any questions? That's about 3 minutes, I think.
Thank you, Anita. Rebecca?
Yeah.
Thanks, Anita. Did you submit on the draft plan to Greater Wellington?
Yes, I did.
Have you asked to be heard at that at their hearings as well?
Yes, I have. I've got an appointment next Monday. Sorry about this, but this was sort of the practice run.
That's okay.
You know, if I had 5 minutes and I could actually get to the end of it without fumbling everything, because this is quite intimidating, I could do it next week in person. At the moment, it's in person, but you never know. I mean, you know, is there COVID in Greytown at the moment? We don't know. I'm not quite sure. I think that I may be better in person than Zoom because I'm not used to this. I retired about a year ago before all of this Zoomy stuff happened at work.
Okay.
So yes, basically it's the same thing. It's a very short message. All I'm asking is that we have some consultation, and we do not want to hold it up. Okay, we really don't want to. But I think that, just as a matter of interest, the person who lives here, he's also very concerned, but he's an elderly gentleman, Mr. Deaconin, and he's basically in the same place as us. He's got an older home in the flood zone. I went and had a talk with the other neighbours, but especially this one here, he said he wasn't concerned because when he built his house, they made him his floor level 1.8 metres above the highest point in the ground. So, you know, even if the property floods, it's not going to inundate his house.
Yeah, higher properties than yours. I think it's really important that you've made a submission and that you're going to present that.
Yes.
The community board have also made a submission to the plan, and we've been asking for some additional detail, and Anne or Shelley might like to talk more to this as well, but we've been asking for some more detail from the regional council and some assurances around how there will be additional protections for Greytown. But your point is a very personal one, and I think it's really important that it's heard. And thank you very much for taking the time to present to us.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, Alistair. Alistair.
Anita, don't worry about the technology. You're doing really well. So, oh, is she gone? Just as I said that.
I think yeah.
Anita, are you still there?
No, I think she's gone.
Yes.
There she comes.
Yeah, I'll listen to you. I'll just go offline. But
yeah, look, I wanted to know that the group that have been doing the floodplain have been together for a few years now, 2-3 years. Did they speak to you at all right during the process?
Yes, they did. Now, the reason why, like I said, I've only recently, last year, been retired, so I do have more time to spend in Greytown. My daughter and son-in-law live here, and we've spent 2 or 3 days a week here. So WAG, I'll call them WAG. The first I saw them after the Westport floods, they were at Fresh Choice supermarket with their big signs. Now I stood there, I sort of had some idea there was a flood issue, but this is the first time I saw the WAG plans. I basically listened to them, you know, they were scaring the hell out of everyone because they said this is just going to be like Westport, you know, everybody's going to get flooded. So when I pointed to where I lived, Richard said, oh, don't worry about that, it's only a few inches. So I just sort of thought that maybe they didn't quite get the, you know, the gravity of our situation. And I know it's only a few properties. And like I said, I do realise how important it is to save the whole of Greytown. So yes, I did have a talk to them. Same thing with Greater Wellington Regional Council, just sort of seemed to want to brush me off. That's how I felt, yeah. It wasn't until I phoned, I can't remember, it was somebody on this board who was absolutely lovely to me and told me to present here. And that was the first time anybody actually listened to me.
Okay, thank you very much, Anita.
Thank you.
And wish you good luck with your presentation. You did very well tonight.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Yes, hello, Anita. Yes, you did do very well. We all feel intimidated by this stuff the first time, so don't worry, you're doing great.
Great, thank you very much. Yeah.
It's good to know that you have put in a written submission.
Yes.
Have
Yeah.
you had an opportunity to meet with John Boone and some of the WAG project people? Why I ask this is that you met with a couple of them at the supermarket that day. Yeah. And it's a very difficult environment.
Yes.
What I'm suggesting, if that suits you, is if perhaps we try and organise for you to get together with John Boone, who was the facilitator.
Yes.
To actually go through some of your concerns with him, because they have been working, as Alistair said, about 3 years, but also on the WAG team were 2 permanent engineers, modelers, experts from DWRC. And through all this time, they were meticulous. And so they would be able to sit with you and explain more clearly and actually engage and perhaps make you feel a bit more confident about what might be going on.
that's fine.
We've got a long way to go with this stuff, admittedly, but
Yes,
I think if you can engage with them early on, it might make you feel a little bit more confident, because this is an awful situation. None of us would like to be in this situation.
Yes,
So
I know.
there is sympathy.
Similar to my brother in Levin, and he's right on where the new motorway's been going through. And he said their lives have been on hold for the last 5 or 6 years because it's taking such a long time. They can't build, they can't sell, they can't do anything. And it's the same sort of situation. I think it comes under the Public Works Act 1981, something like that. Okay, look, I don't want to hold everyone else up, but thank you very much.
But would you like us to facilitate if we try and get hold of John, and we'll be in touch? We'll try and do that for you.
That'll be great. Thank you very much.
You're
Thank you.
welcome. Bye.
Right, our second person is Rosa Doyle, who's going to be talking to us about Greytown swimming pool murals. So welcome, Rosa.
Thank you. This is my first Zoom meeting, so I'm a bit nervous. I hope you can hear me. Let me know if you can't. So I'm speaking about the Greytown swimming pool and about some proposed murals. Basically, it's a lovely community space and it welcomes all walks of life, all generations. So with my concepts, I wanted it to be very just uplifting and positive. And I've taken the theme of New Zealand, like native plants and birds. So, and just, really focusing on the natural environment of Greytown and the Wairarapa. So I think my concepts were sent to you all, so I'll just hold them up and speak about them. So the first concept, these are all done in pencil. So if you can imagine in paint, they'll be a lot bolder and brighter. But the first concept is the flying kiruru with the Tararua ranges within the windspan, and this is just capturing the iconic Tararua range in like a very peaceful but uplifting way, using the natural greens and blues, which are New Zealand's famous for. And just to bring in a little splash of surrealism, I just thought including some pink clouds just to mix up the balance and the energy. So that was my first concept. And with paint, I think it will look really great. And the second concept was, this is basically, I call this the Native New Zealand Flower Bomb, and it's basically a celebration of diversity. So it's all these different plants and flowers that we find in New Zealand, and just all happy, positive color palette. And that was that one. Sorry, I'm rushing, I'm a bit nervous, try to slow down. The third concept is the classic New Zealand tui in the flax. And I thought I could, instead of it being sky, it could have almost a ripple effect. And with the sort of pastel kind of surreal clouds, bringing back that sort of playful kind of energy, because I just basically want everyone that goes there to feel very positive and happy and not intimidated at all or put off.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Oh, sorry, my Siri. So that's my presentation. Are there any questions?
This would be in the oil?
No, so it is resin outdoor paint.
Wow.
So in terms of like the size and the material, I'd speak to the board about what you'd prefer. But it could be on board, so I'd prime it and then use outdoor paints.
Right, okay. And would you need to varnish over the top of the paint? Or?
Yeah, I think I would varnish. It would give it a more finished look and extra protection as well.
Okay, and you would be open, I know you talked about 1 metre by 1.5 metres, but you would be open to make it larger if necessary?
Yeah, definitely. It's whatever suits the space and whatever the council really would want.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No, but I wanted to say they're beautiful, Rosa.
Oh,
and
thank you.
Any one of those would be absolutely glorious at the pool.
that is really nice to hear, because I haven't actually shown anyone or had any feedback, so I really didn't know what people would think, but thank you. That's really
they're
nice.
stunning. I can imagine people of all ages really relating to any of those images.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Just stunning.
Great. Thank you. That's really what I wanted, because so many children go to those pools. So yeah, to have something really bright would be great.
I know. No, they're neat.
Cool.
I think particular the birds and the animals, kids tend to really enjoy that.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
I personally really liked the first one. I thought that was really nice.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's my favorite actually, because it's sort of a little bit abstract, but yeah, I think that would look really cool.
Good energy. I agree.
Cool. Thank you.
We do need something to brighten up the pool, don't we? And we've been trying for the last 2 years. So.
Oh, right. Yeah, and I think the thing with outdoor art is it can really become an attraction in a city or a town. Like it just adds something a little bit special.
It does.
So yeah.
Shelley, did you want to say?
Yeah, I was just endorsing what others have said. It's a very positive, colourful vibe. I mean, we're surrounded by bad news, aren't we? So we need something to brighten our days, and I support what you're doing. It's lovely.
Great,
So,
thank you. That's awesome. Bringing a bit of positivity in. Thanks.
There is an item in the chair's report regarding this. So we will be bringing up again. So we should be able to make a decision tonight on that, Rosa.
Cool. Yeah, and I'm not sure like how many murals you were thinking of, but there's 3. I think you said possibly 2, but
No, I think possibly 3.
okay, cool.
Depending on the price, how much we can.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it
of
would
course.
be good.
Yeah, cool. No, that's great. Sounds good.
good. Thank you.
Cool. Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Cool.
We enjoyed it.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Bye. Third person presenting is Brent Mortensen with regard to Greytown RSA Cenotaph. Brent, you have the floor.
You need to unmute, Brent.
You need to unmute, Brent.
Start again.
Here we go. A little button.
Yeah.
Yeah, well done. One again.
Now speak.
Press the button. Yeah. Speak now.
Oh, can you hear me now?
I can hear you
Yes.
now. Yes.
Wow. I knew I'd have this problem. Good evening, everybody. I'm representing the Greytown RSA. We're proposing to create a cenotaph at the swimming pool area in Greytown. The reason behind this is to hold future commemorations such as Anzac Day and Armistice Day, which we are getting more and more public support from, and also to commemorate those who served and those who died. Many years ago, a proposal was made for a cenotaph, but owing to its size, location, and change in building codes, that whole idea has been scrapped. What we are proposing now is a 11-metre wall with 2 5-metre sections lined with black granite and a glass section in the centre. This is a rough diagram of what I'm meaning.
Okay.
The location is adjacent to the swimming pools and the pump house. We had a site location with Bryce Neems and our architect and several representatives who are putting in drainage and other facilities in that area. And the location we've come up with is satisfactory to all concerned. Inscriptions on the granite are to be finalised. In the centre, on the glass section, we would like to put the ode in English into Reo. And on the right-hand section, an appropriate sign commemorating all those that served and suffered. On the left-hand side, we'd like to review and put all the names of Greytown's war dead. As you'll be aware, there are some at the swimming pool and some on the park gates. However, there may be others that are not mentioned, and there's no mention of any persons that may have died in other conflicts such as Vietnam or Korea. We would like as much community feedback as possible with regards to the inscriptions. To the right of the memorial, we would like to put a 25-pounder field piece, which we currently have, to add a bit of solemnity to the cenotaph, with possibly an inscription of its relevance. Where we are at the moment is the architect, Sandpit Designs, has agreed to do the design work for us for free and the engineer's report. We've also consulted with the council and they have agreed to waive building consents. But what we would like to get now is your approval and endorsement and any suggestions you might like to make with regarding what should be inscribed on the granite. Even though the concept of just a plain block wall is very simplistic, the idea was gleaned mainly from the wall in Washington, which is just one long black granite wall, which commemorates the 57,000 war dead, American war dead in Vietnam. Once we have the architect's designs, we'll be making further submissions to the council, requesting registration of interest, and then possible fundraising. So that is where we're at the moment. Have you got any questions, inquiries, or comments? Yep.
Yes, thank you, Brent. It sounds like a really wonderful idea. I love it. Is the 28th Maori Battalion represented in this? You say it's going to be an inscription in Te Reo?
We're going to put the ode in Te Reo. There hasn't been any thought now of representing individual units.
Okay.
The D Company of the 28th came from this location, but we have been liaising with local Maori, and they waived the koha that we would have normally paid them for their contribution to Anzac Day, and that's kicked off our financial balance for the cenotaph.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. So thank you. I'm interested to hear other people's views. Yeah.
Alistair and then Simone.
Yeah, Brent, thank you. Look, I'm very pleased to see that there's something progressing there, having been involved with the previous one. Flagpoles, are you thinking about some permanent flagpoles there?
Yes, the flagpoles will be to the front of it.
Fantastic. And the second part I have, in terms of our Maori war dead, they have their honours board down at the Papawai Marae, of course, and they're not represented on any of the current plaques or memorials. So it would be very appropriate to very close liaison with Papawai to make sure that Papawai's war dead are inscribed on any memorial as well, so that it is an inclusive memorial.
Yes, we wish to, once we get the plans drawn up and we can get accurate quotes for fundraising, we would like to consult as widely as possible to put appropriate messages and names on the cenotaph.
And the final point, my final thought on this, and it's a little bit of a morbid thought, and hopefully we will never have to use it, but I presume you will leave enough space on the memorial board for any future young soldiers, sailors or airmen from our district that might end up needing to be memorialised?
Yes, well, each section on the left consists of 1 metre by 2.5 metre granite panels. And if you look at the size of the names on the park gates, where from memory there's approximately 60 people mentioned, they're easily fitted on a much smaller plaque. Same with the ones in the current location at the swimming pool. I'm quite confident that if we had all the names in the same size, we could account for a lot more. Hopefully that doesn't come to fruition.
Hope so. And your choice of black granite is fantastic. Having been to the Vietnam Memorial in Washington, it's, in my mind, the most moving monument in that whole national park area.
Yeah, it's very simplistic, but it just hits you, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
It is a very moving monument. Yeah. Simone, you'll have to be the last one because we've run out of time.
Kia ora, Brent. Yeah, no, I was lucky enough to be a part of that Anzac event, and yes, it's great to know that the koha has gone to part of that statue. Also, I think it's just keep the communication open with Papawai, and I'm sure we'll be able to support you fully with the ongoing cenotaph. So kia ora.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Rebecca.
Very quickly, Rebecca. Yeah.
I will be quick. I was just going to suggest, Brent, if there was value in the community board coming down and just meeting with you and seeing in place what it might look like. If that would be helpful.
Yes, you're most welcome. I would like to have something better for display once our architect's drawn up the actual plans, and hopefully he's given us some rough diagrams, but nothing really that we can show that sort of relevance. So that would be most certainly
for the future. Yeah, cool.
Well, I think we can say that you have our support, and we would welcome for you to come back once you have more information and diagrams. And I'm sure we would like to go down at that stage to look to see what's in progress.
Yeah. Sorry, you broke up in transmission.
You have our support. We think it's a wonderful
thank you.
concept, and we look to see more detail in the future.
Yes, definitely.
Just one more thing.
Yes.
Brent, has there been any design concepts from tangata whenua?
Not as yet, but we would welcome input from you with regards to some appropriate motive or something like that.
Okay. Yeah, I was just thinking of maybe like a tire house somewhere or something, just sort of as an inclusive type of
Gilly's mentioned something like that when we spoke on Anzac Day.
Okay, good idea. We look forward to hearing more from you in the future.
Okay.
Thank you for your presentation. We move to Jeanette Wallace-Gedge now.
Good evening. Thank you. Mobasian, councillors, community board members, and everybody else. Thanks for considering our grant application from Cobblestones. What we would like to do is run a couple of really good Sunday afternoon events where we can get the local community in and everybody have a really good time to make up for this rather disturbing year we've all had. And everybody's been, locked up and everything's been cancelled. What we're asking for is a contribution towards the cost of the bands that we're considering having. So what we'd like to do is have a local band, probably of younger people, and a couple of really good bands probably come over the hill from Wellington. It would be a Sunday afternoon into the early evening, and it would be at a reasonable cost. That's why we're asking for a grant. Has anyone got any questions?
Amy.
I do have a suggestion. If you're looking for a younger band, we've got a couple of really good bands at Kiranui. It depends on what you're looking for, but we've got some pretty good rock bands, and you might have heard them around, but we've got a really good jazz band as well. So if you were interested in any of those, my final thing could be that I set you guys up with that, because I know that they would be super keen to play outside of the music room. So if that's what you're looking for, give me your details.
Absolutely, that's exactly. I had heard there's a couple of really good bands at Kiranui, and my neighbours at Kiranui. So I was intending to get in touch with them. So I'm sure that Katie can give you my details to pass on.
What's her last name? Sorry?
Wallace Gage.
Do you know what year she is?
Oh, sorry, no, it's not my child.
No, but do you know what year she is? Because I don't know her from her name.
No, that's my name. James, he's in first year at Kiranui.
I probably wouldn't know him then because I'm year 12. But if you wanted to pass on your details or an email or something, that would work.
Jeanette, I can give you Amy's email address so that you can be in touch.
Thank you. Yes, that would be fine.
And you know that we're going to consider your application under agenda item 8.6, the financial assistance report. So we will be able to make a decision tonight.
Thank you. I'll be listening in.
Okay, thank you. And the last of our public speakers is Jess Partridge. Jess?
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, shall I go?
Yes, away you go.
Okay, yeah, so I've just come to talk about the rather sad and upsetting event of the elm trees being removed down Wood Street. You know, lots of people in the community have been very saddened by the removal of those trees, and in some ways it's probably an event that could have been avoided. My understanding is that there was an email from Ben Turner from the Roading Department on 22nd of October to the CEO saying that 2 arborists had said that all the trees were unsafe and needed to be removed immediately. And the CEO replied pretty much on that day saying to go ahead with the works, and copying that email into lots of other people at council, including Greytown Community Board. So I think the removal began around 27th of October. And on that day, I received lots of phone calls from people who were wondering what was going on, and so did the Heritage Trust. I contacted the planning manager at council for the James Witham to ask him if he knew about it. He wasn't aware of anything in terms of the notable tree status or any consents. So subsequently, after lots of requests for advice on what was going on, we heard that the council said that the trees were unsafe and needed to be removed immediately. So council then put up a report on its website from an arborist, which is described as a 2-page report, but it's in fact sort of 4 paragraphs with no individual assessment of each tree and just 1 photo. So, you know, not to the professional standard that one would expect when a notable tree is going to be removed. So that report said that it was only a matter of time before the trees fell, and that it needs to be removed in a timely manner and promptly. But there was no time frame given as to when the trees needed to be removed, and they were not described as it being an emergency or that they needed to be removed immediately. As far as we can understand, no other arborist has put in a report on these trees, even though on the council report it says that 2 arborists have. I think when they refer to 2 arborists, they're actually talking about a report that was done by Richie Hill in 2018 when he assessed the trees for their notable status. And at that time, he recommended taking them off the list so that work could be undertaken to them, but didn't say that they needed to be removed or they were an immediate safety hazard. So the report that's gone to GCB tonight talks about, refers to the arborist report saying that there are immediate risk of failure. That's just not the case. In the arborist report, they didn't say that. He didn't say it was immediate, so it's a bit of an exaggeration. So there was no, the report says there was no professional reports done because it was an emergency, and there was no peer reviewing done because it was an emergency. But, you know, as an arborist myself who deals with these kinds of situations quite often, you have to ask, you know, the trees have been there since 2018, since Richie inspected them. They haven't, you know, fallen over, they haven't lost large limbs. There's been, you know, lots and lots of extremely windy events and high storms, and other trees have fallen down. You know, so if they can withstand there for 3 years, then, you know, you do doubt whether it's actually an emergency. In my opinion, I think there was probably enough time to get each tree assessed individually, and for that report to be peer reviewed. I don't think it was the emergency that the road engineers thought it was. The whole thing is a bit of a sort of sorry, disappointing event. The ARBS report that has been relied on is very brief and very generalised, and it's a real shame that the name of the person who's done that report hasn't been released. I mean, I've worked in council myself in New Zealand, and, you know, really, when a professional does a report on something, you know, they should be able to have their name released, and I don't think it's right for it to be withheld. Council has kind of, like, I think, sort of massaged some of the information, like they've shown pictures of, you know, the tree with rot holes in it and decay, but, you know, we've all seen pictures of the trees without decay, and there was pictures in the Wairarapa Times Age of large parts of the tree which was sound. So the whole thing is, you know, is a real shame, and I think it could have been handled a lot better, and I'm not sure that it was an emergency. You know, it was possible that the trees might have been able to be reduced and still kept, but it's also possible that even with some expert arborist report and peer review, they may have been recommended to be removed. But if that process had been gone through, then the community, you know, could have been assured by that process and got the understanding and the professional expertise to back up what happened, and that didn't happen. So, you know, the whole thing is just very unfortunate, and, you know, some of the communication from council has been, you know, it just feels like it's doubling down on what was, you know, probably not very well handled event. So it's a bit of a shame, you know, especially given how important trees are to Greytown and how hard the Heritage Trust has worked, and, well, even the council itself in, you know, assessing all the notable trees and reviewing the notable tree list. So let's just hope that this is a fork in the road, and, you know, everyone can learn from this, and the council, and, you know, we can improve our game and be more professional going forward. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Jez. Now, this is going to come up again under the chair's report, but are there any individual questions that you want to ask now? Rebecca.
Thanks, Jez. Were you consulted at any point directly about those trees, given that you are part of the Greytown Notable Trees and Advisory Group?
No, we weren't. You know, as I sort of said at the beginning, I think the initial 22nd of October email that was shared with Greytown Community Board, you know, that could have been pushed on to the Heritage Trust and to Tree Advisory Group, and it wasn't. So there was an opportunity there to do some consultation, even if it was very brief, and it didn't happen. So that's a shame.
It is unfortunate, because you can't stick trees back together, which is a crying shame. Yeah, thank you. Certainly something that we can look at in the future.
Anyone else? Alex.
Yeah, thank you. Following the removal of the trees, have you gone past and examined the stumps?
Well, you know, I'm familiar with the trees, and, you know, because I'm an arborist and I live in Greytown, so I've seen that they've had decay, and they're suffering from dysfunction and they've been reduced. So they weren't in great condition.
No.
And I don't disagree with the proposal to remove them from the notable tree register, because when trees need a lot of work to maintain them, then, you know, the owners of the tree need that freedom to be able to do that work. But, you know, I think there is a chance that they could have been reduced. But the bigger issue is, you know, if they really had to be felled, there should have been better professional advice.
Yeah. No,
and
my
more
question
time for
was
the public to understand what was going to happen.
With respect, my question was whether or not, following the felling of the trees, you had inspected the condition of the trees. You know, we've heard the other bit previously. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stumps are showing signs of decay and rot, and you know, I've seen it since they were felled and before. Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Jess, for your report. And I think there certainly are lessons to be learned from that. And I'm sure some of those will come up again in the chair's report, but thank you for your report.
Okay, thank you.
We're going to move now to the community board minutes. Now, the minutes are presented for corrections only. Are there any corrections to either of the minutes?
I have one. It's a very small one, but I noticed it. On the minutes, page 3, it starts off, it's close to the top, and it starts off, Mr. Gray suggested an alternative location for the pedestrian crossing. What I did notice further down, the word earmarked is spelt A-I-R-M-A-R-K-E-D. It should be E-A-R-M-A-R-K-E-D, meaning designated. Small point, I noticed it, so there you go. Just, you know, all right, so you get that, Caitlin? Yeah.
Councillor Perler?
Got it.
Thanks. And thanks, Anne. Look, you missed the actions from public participation, and I know we're talking about some of them in your chair's report, but one of them we're not, and that's Anita's submission. And while Stefan's here, I would just wonder whether it's worth perhaps getting some information from council in the future about what is the effect on people who may well be in a different flood area because of the Wahine Action Group's recommendations, and if there is something that is there some sort of form of liability, because obviously we need to know whether there's going to be an effect on those people in the new floodplain.
Stefan, can you answer
that? No, Chair. I'm sorry. I'm not in a position to respond, but I can take that back.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect a response now, but to perhaps get the staff to have a look at those issues and what it means for the landowners in those new areas.
Madam Chair, as well, you know, this is very much a process that is the responsibility of the regional council, but it's fantastic to have that feedback regarding a submission that does affect the community, and I'll certainly be watching it with interest, and it'd be great if she came back and discussed how it went across within the hearings panel. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Do I have a mover for the minutes of the Greytown Community Board meetings of the 22nd of September to be confirmed as a true and correct record? Can I have a proposer and a seconder, please? All those in favour? Anyone against? Thank you. The motion is carried. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask.
Could it just been noted in the minutes that I abstained because I wasn't there?
I'm going to move to receive the chair's report now, to move up 9.1. So can I have a mover for that, please? Thank you. And a seconder. So moved Shelley, seconded Rebecca. All those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. Anyone against? Thank you. Oh. So if we can move to receive the chair's report. Do I have a mover to receive the report?
Yep.
And the seconder? Thank you. Simon and Shelley. Those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? All right. So the first topic is the flower barrels. I don't think we need to go over this in detail. We did go down, Shelley and I, to talk to the owners of the shops, and there was agreement that they would water the barrels outside their shops, but we have 3 barrels outside St John's Hall, Stellable Park, and the council building. And if other businesses do not want to take over their maintenance, then I'm going to move that those 3 barrels be removed. So we will ask, first of all, if there are other businesses that want to take over the maintenance, and if they're not, do I have your agreement that the barrels be moved?
Yeah, I do.
All right. Right. Moved Councillor Plymouth and seconded Rebecca. All those in favour?
Actually, Anne, I have a question. If they're removed, where are they going to go? Are they going to be redistributed somewhere else for anywhere, or are they just?
I would ask Bryce to remove them. So what he does with them is really up to the council.
Right. Okay. Cool.
The second part of topic 1 was whether we can retain $1,000 in the beautification budget for the maintenance and replacement of flowers during the following 12 months on Main Street. Do I have a name to propose that we maintain the 1,000 in the budget to maintain and replace the flowers for this year?
I think, yeah, I would, depending on, you know, who's doing it, or, you know, how is that going to be spent?
Well, I would ask the same person who watered and maintained the barrels over the last 3 years if he would be responsible just to maintain and replace the flowers as and when necessary, up to the value of $1,000.
So long as everybody else is doing their bit with the watering, etc.
That's correct.
Yeah, we're going round and round in circles on these barrels. All we're doing is removing. Look, we have paid money for years and years and years on this. It is very clear that the shop owners do not want them. Otherwise, they would put their hands up and say, I'll take it and I'll look after this and I'll do this. But actually, there are lots of other businesses out there who are funding their own barrels, funding their own plants, and so on. We have tried and tried for years. This, to me, is just a waste of money.
Alistair, we have said that they have said that they will water the barrels this year. If they don't, then the barrels will go. Right? We've had this argument around the table before, and when we met, it was agreed that we would retain the 1,000 beautification budget for this year only. So do I have a mover for that?
What's the other option before we go further? Alistair, what would you like to be, to see done with it all?
So I'm completely done with barrels. I don't want to see any more money spent on barrels. If we're going to do beautification, let's do something that is a bit more permanent, like the car park options, or something that is actually making a garden, as opposed to spending money every year on barrels for some businesses, but not for all. So if we're going to do it, it's for all of Greytown, not for some businesses. Because when I look down the main street and I walk down the main street, there are businesses who are doing their thing for their businesses. And yet we seem to be giving almost an indefinite charitable donation to somebody else to have a barrel with plants outside their business. That's not the game we're in. The whole point of these barrels was seed funding all those years ago, and it has just carried on ad infinitum. So if we want to do something, let's think something a little bit bigger than, quite frankly, just barrels.
Well, we can do that.
I don't want to put it, I don't want to put another red cent into barrels.
And we have 12 months to do that. But all that is doing is giving 12 months grace to come up with alternatives.
Well, I'd rather save the money and put it to something big next year rather than just spend the money now.
I have already approached the State Highways and Bryce to see if there is any possibility of using the car parking facility or the illegal car parking facility outside the town centre, and to make that into an area for a small garden. But you know, that is not going to happen in a hurry because it has to go through the state highways.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it's not going to happen early, but there's no point in spending money that we might be able to use and roll over to next year. The money doesn't go anywhere. We're still going to save it for beautification, but let's put it to something that's actually going to be worthwhile.
Alex.
Yeah, if I may make a comment, that I think we did have this discussion over a year ago and we gave them 12 months grace then. So if the situation hasn't resolved, and you know, at what point do you say enough?
We were, Alex, we were paying for somebody to come and water and see. All we're doing this year is to look to see, and I mean, it may be that the barrels do not need the plants replaced. But if they're there this year, surely we would like them to look nice. If you want to remove them now, then that is an alternative which Councillor Plymouth can raise. Do you want to recommend?
No, my point is, if people want them, they're there. They can have them for nothing, but don't expect us to keep funding them. We've funded them enough, and we've given more than enough signals that we're going to stop funding them. So
right. Well,
at what stage do you say enough is enough?
All right. So are you putting forward an alternative proposal that we do not spend the 1,000 on the barrels?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay. Do you have a seconder? Do we have a seconder for that proposal?
I would be interested in looking at other options, because, you know, there might be better things than the barrels which can actually add something to Greytown streets. How much would it cost the council to actually take away all those barrels? What would they do with them? Would that be an added cost anywhere? What happens there? I mean, there's a little bit of work that has to be done perhaps to see the implications of this. I don't know. But it might be good for us to look at other options, just to have a bit of a change.
Oh, so are we proposing that this time round we do nothing and we leave it till our next meeting, which will be in February, and we can bring the issue up again? So we're making no decision at this point in time. And I would ask members of the board in the meantime to come up with alternative proposals.
That might be a better idea.
I think, you know, there is no imperative to spend money. If we don't need to spend the money, don't spend it. It's not going to go anywhere, and it's going to stay in the beautification fund and be rolled over to next year's budget. And if we have a better idea next year, great. But spending money for the sake of spending money is just poor spending.
My concern is that if we are going to have the barrels this year, then I'd like to see that they're maintained to a certain standard. The watering, we've been told, will be covered by the business people, but you know, there will need to be some changes because some of those plants are seasonal. So, you know. Yeah,
but we're not doing it for the other businesses that have actually spent the money for the barrels. Why should these pay it? Why should these businesses get public money spent on them?
Because the barrels are there at the moment, and I don't want to walk down the high street and look and think, oh my God, what a mess.
Well, I don't think the people whose barrel at the shops in front would want that either. So there's an incentive for them to look after them. And if they don't look after them, take them away. It's simple to organise to get them away, but I don't see spending $1,000 on plants for 3 barrels as good money under any circumstances.
So there are 10 barrels. So, and I'm not saying that we would spend 1,000. What I'm saying is that we will leave that 1,000 in the beautification budget to use if and when needed this year.
I'm more than happy to keep it in the beautification budget. I'm just not happy to spend it on barrels.
Well, at the moment, nice to see you, Graham. At the moment, it is there to be spent on the barrels. What you're suggesting is that the whole lot is taken out of the funding for barrels and just left in the beautification budget. Councillor, are you proposing that?
No, I'm not proposing it. We don't have to. It's not a proposal here, and it's purely and simply saying don't spend money on barrels that we have already discussed. And we started this process 18 months ago and said there is a cutoff time. My point is we're well past that cutoff time, and we need to just move on and stop talking about barrels. It just is a waste of everybody's time because nobody in the community is looking after them, and it's just not good spending of money. There are better projects that we should be doing as a community board, projects that will make a difference to the beautification of the whole town, not the sake of 10 barrels.
Okay, well, why don't we come up, you know, as you suggested, all of us put our thinking caps on and think of how we can have something which is not going to cost too much, which might actually add some colour to Greytown streets. I mean, you go anywhere else, you go to the other wards, you go up to Carterton, they've got some hanging pots. It does actually look a little bit like it's loved.
It costs a fortune.
Yeah, so perhaps we ought to just think a little bit about what possibly we could do. And I see your point, Alistair. I also see Anne's point. I kind of sit in the middle, but I think it does need some thought because $1,000 is still a lot of money and it could be better spent. So,
okay, I'm going to take topic 1 off the agenda. And in the meantime, I'm going to ask you to have a look to see if there are alternatives that
might work.
That might work for this 12 months. In the meantime, the flowers remain, and if the barrels are looking really bad, then I'm going to move that we ask the council to get rid of them.
If they're watered, Anne, what's in there hopefully will survive.
If they're watered, the trees will survive, but some of those flowers only come up at certain times of the year, and some of them are annuals. They're not going to last. They're going to need to be replaced. But if you have made the decision that we do nothing, then we'll just see the gradual demise of the flower barrels, and then they'll be removed.
There may be other ways around all this. We'll just go away and think our ways around it.
We've talked about it long enough. We talked about it when we met previously, and we did agree we'd do it for 12 months. Now there doesn't seem to be agreement, so I'm taking the topic off the agenda, and we can discuss what we're going to do with the main street in February. Agree?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Shrubs outside the Greytown Town Centre, just to report that the Amenities and Waste Manager has managed the removal of the old greenery outside the Greytown Town Centre, and we now have white carpet roses planted around the trees, which look great. So, get your thinking caps on, and let's see if we can come up with something like that for the rest of Greytown.
And I just wanted to clarify, are we no longer recommending that the 3 flower barrels are removed? Is that sort of all part of the reconsidering in February, or is that motion still going along? And we're just re-looking at the maintenance and replacement portion of that?
No, we're doing nothing until February.
No, we passed removing the 3 barrels. We passed part 2, remove the 3 barrels, and we're parking your third recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Project plan for 85 to 87 West Street. The Chair and Deputy Chair met with South Wairarapa District Council officers Karen and Olivia at 3:30 on the afternoon of Friday the 29th of October. This was subsequent to our request to the CEO dated the 28th of September to meet to discuss the proposed scope for the public consultation regarding the best use of the land in question. At this time, we were shown a draft project plan and the proposed time frame for action. We questioned the proposed 18-month time frame, the start date and the indicative programme. We questioned why an earlier community consultation should not take place to ascertain Greytown's feelings on the future of West Street. But we were informed there was no money in the budget this year and that the earliest date for the commencement of the project would be July 2022. The format could not be changed, and both a needs analysis and constraints analysis lasting some 10 weeks would take place before any initial early consultation. Full public consultation would not occur until some months later following council approval. This process, while perceived as cumbersome, was deemed necessary. The council will engage in a project to determine the future of the land, but unless there is a change in council's perspective on this issue, there is unlikely to be an outcome until 2024 at the earliest. I would therefore put forward this recommendation that Greytown Community Board be kept informed at each stage of the process, and B, that the board is fully involved in the consultation process, and C, that the proposed outcomes through Greytown Community Board before assets and services and council sign off. Do I have somebody to propose that recommendation? I need a proposal.
Madam Chair, don't you want to discuss it first before going to a proposal?
Yeah, open to discussion. The floor is open.
I would say, Anne, that your last resolution from the last community board covers everything you're asking there anyway, which was to be kept involved in the consultation development and so on and so forth. I think you've already covered it. I think the council is fully aware of the need to work with community boards on things like this. I don't know what you're trying to achieve when it's already very well understood and known, and you've already had one meeting with them.
It's just that we now have a time frame for what is happening, which we didn't have before.
But it doesn't change the underlying view of the community board and of the council to work with the community board on this matter. So I'm not sure whether proposals will make any difference at all.
I actually agree with Alistair as well. And there's already been an agreement to work. There's already a process to work together. I don't actually see that this adds anything to what's already been set out.
Can I just say that it's a matter of emphasis? Okay. We do just need to keep our voice out there and to be sure that these things are followed through. It's not accusing anybody of anything, but it's just keeping our presence out there, okay? And so we're just emphasising that that is what we are keeping our attention on, and we just will follow it up, okay? So your point is taken, both of you. Yeah. All right.
Any further, Alex?
Yeah, the Greytown Community Board have a seat and sorry, not a seat, but a place, and are able to attend council meetings and assets and services meetings where these things are discussed, and they're able to engage in the conversation anyway. I'm sorry, I go with the councillors here. This is an unnecessary resolution on a matter that should have been clearly stated by council already.
Okay. What do you think, Anne? I mean, you know, it's yeah.
I think that as Greytown Community Board, we have been asked by the public to be involved and to represent their interests. And this recommendation is just showing that we will continue to be involved and to represent their interests.
On that, Madam Chair, could you possibly show us the research that you've conducted to arrive at the opinion that you have the majority of community support to take that view?
I can show you, but you know, it is our meetings with the public on the streets.
And I've just got a question around that too. If that's the case, that information has never been brought back directly into the community board for the wider community board members to see that. I actually understand completely what the Mayor's asking for. Is it a matter of view or is it a matter of actual research that has been shared widely? That it would be helpful to know that.
Michelle.
Yeah, can I just make a comment about that? That resolution that we put in from our last meeting was a response from participants who asked us to get involved, but we also need our neutrality. We need to make sure that we are getting the views of Greytown, strategic, you know, a whole lot. That is why we wanted to be granted the opportunity to be part of the scoping and the needs analysis and all that sort of thing as appropriate. And that's why we were happy to be able to meet with officers as we did in order to see how the land lies, to find out how we can engage and also find out with the council or independently of them how we can get Greytown's views before it goes out to the larger 3-ward public consultation. So, you know, there has been a whole lot of stuff swirling around, and we all know because we've all heard it and read it and seen it. But I think, you know, we were trying to put in place a process where we could actually find out, with the council's help, what Greytown feels about these things on either side before it goes out to the broader public consultation. So that's kind of where we were hoping that we could make some kind of contribution and also gain from working with council officers where appropriate before it goes out to the broader thing right across SWDC. So does that kind of clarify?
Not really. I do, and by all means, Madam Chair, I know I'm only seated here and I'm not a member of the board. However, that's a concern that you feel that you need to lobby or involve yourself as Greytown ahead of the balance of the population of the district. But the other one is that, and it's quite clear within the LGNZ guidelines on community boards, you have the power to do research to inform your position as a community board, as opposed to taking a minority view and taking it as the opinion of the community. So really, I haven't seen you coming to council officers to say, can we have some research done on the feelings, or to enable you to create an opinion, an informed opinion and a stance of the community board.
But that's the whole point of our engagement with the council officers. We were given such a short amount of time through circumstance, and it's not hitting at them. They were very good, and you know, we had the time to talk, but not enough time. And so there's a lot of stuff that was not able to be covered. And so, you know, I think we've all fallen between a lot of chairs with this. And so I think we need good grace amongst both of our parties and all of the parties across Greytown, because it has turned into a morass, and I know you know that, as do others.
Yeah, but I trust that the council resolution, with a very clear directive going forward with regards to consultation that's been made at council, should satisfy those concerns.
But I want to, can I please make it clear that we were asked to do what we did, but it does not mean that we are favouring any one concept or group. We are as interested as everybody else in finding out what the whole of Greytown feels, okay? But you've got to start somewhere. So I will leave it there and, you know, let's go forward.
So if I could just make
we
a comment.
all know that there is great disquiet in Greytown. There are so many different positions, and you know, we are not taking sides with any position. We just want to ensure that democracy prevails. But yes, it is going forward as a South Wairarapa District Council issue, but that piece of land sits in Greytown, and it is Greytown people who are above all very concerned at the outcome, whether it remains with the council, whether it stays as it is now, or whether it goes open to be bought and it changes into a business development. We don't know what the future is going to be. All we're saying is that as Greytown Community Board, we would be doing a disservice to our community who have asked us, can we please continue to be involved in that consultation process?
And my point is that you have already asked that, and the council has come back to you and said yes, and you are entitled as the chair of the community board to sit in on assets and services committees where these things are discussed and at council meetings. So the point of having another resolution to keep the pressure on council is pointless and, quite frankly, rude. It doesn't lead to anything except it leads nowhere, because you're already invited, you're already in the tent by the very nature of your position as chair of the community board.
Rebecca.
The most important thing you could do, Anne, is continue to do the research within your community or within our Greytown community, because that is the community that is this board we represent. Do the research and then bring it regularly back to the community board. Show the statistics, show the conversations for it. But I do have to echo exactly what Alistair and Alex have said, is you're already at the table. And I think now's the time to actually move this conversation along, because it's actually not helpful to keep discussing this right now. It has been discussed. There is a place there. It will be done in a democratic process, and it will be as per the Local Government Act and rules. Just keep the conversation going and keep routinely bringing it back.
Yeah. I fail to see how continually bringing back opinions to the community board are going to affect the progress as it goes forward.
Okay, let me make it a little bit clearer then. Why don't you, as part of your research that you're doing in your clinics, actually start keeping some data and some information, and then when we get further down the line with the consultation process, as council have ratified in a meeting, bring those conversations forward. You will have the information. That is the time to be sharing that information. Does that make sense? I'd be really interested to know what Simone and Graham say on this matter, because I'm sure that I haven't heard from either of them a great deal about their thinking in this space. Do you guys think that that is a good idea, that the information is held in such a way and collated in such a way and brought forward as part of a consultation? Would that be helpful? Does it need to be talked again in the community board meeting? If so, how?
Simone, do you have an opinion?
I think that a lot of it was why we were sort of going on. We were just going on of what our community was actually asking us to do. So that's all that it was, and trying to, I suppose, to make it transparent for them to understand where we were coming from. So I think that's where it's been, and it always has been. That's been my whakaaro about it.
Yeah.
And that's where I sit.
That's cool. That's excellent. Thank you.
So let me just further that. So do you think there is no need for this recommendation to go through, Simon?
The recommendation of what we had voted on previously.
Yeah, that the Greytown Community Board be kept informed at each stage of the process, and that the board is fully involved in the consultation process, and that the proposed outcomes comes through the Greytown Community Board before assets and services and council sign off.
I think it still needs to go ahead, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, look, I'm going to put that recommendation forward. Do I have a proposer for that recommendation?
And can I just add something before we do? To Alistair and the Mayor, we are not intending to be rude. I don't think, you know, you can say that our way of speaking with you, or just the way we are trying to discuss this, the intention is not to be rude. We are just exchanging ideas, trying to help the thing along, mute, exchange, and understand. We're taking on board what you're saying, but please do not accuse us of being rude, because I don't think we are. I think we've been as conciliatory as possible. We're not, you know, so I'll just leave it there, but please do not use that word.
I think you're missing my point, that if you make the same resolution over and over again, there is only one way to interpret it, and that is to suggest that the council is not listening. Well, the council is listening, Anne, and you are at the table with assets and services, and you are invited to council meetings, and the reports are regularly coming back. If you keep making the same recommendations over and over again, there is only one way to interpret that.
It's not, because we've asked to be involved in the consultation process, and that means that we know that we've been asked to know what is happening, not that we have to wait until it goes to council to know what's happening.
Well, I can tell you, you're probably very unlikely to get it before councillors do, because councillors have to agree with what officers are proposing before we can put it out to anyone, including community boards. That's what assets and services committees are about.
Look,
there's a process to go. You know, the community board is by all means the first people outside of council to hear about it. It doesn't hear about it before council, because council has to approve the approach. It's quite simple. I don't understand why this is complicated.
Look, we're going round in circles here.
Yes, we are.
I'm going to put the recommendation. Do I have somebody to propose that recommendation? Simon, are you happy to propose that recommendation? Do I have a seconder for that recommendation?
Well, I will, just to keep the peace.
Thank you. And can I have a vote now? Those in favour, please show.
Okay.
3. Those against, please show. 2. So the recommendation goes through. And it is just to continue to ensure.
Sorry, could we get a vote from Graham, please?
What was Graham's vote? Sorry.
And Graham hasn't had an opportunity to actually have the say yet.
Speak. Yes.
Graham.
Confused.
Graham, can you put this on, please? The speaker on. Graham, can you put the speaker on?
The joys of technology. It doesn't work for everybody. It's set up differently.
Oh, hang on. I think you may be getting some help.
Can I make a suggestion? Graham, if you like, and you can't get your machine off mute, why don't I give you a call and put you on speakerphone if you can hear that and that sounds okay?
Can he hear us?
Kathy, are you able to unmute Graham?
No, I'm sending through a request for him to unmute. So he should, in theory, just be able to click on that. But for some reason, it must not be.
Can you not do it from the controlling point?
No, I can request him to unmute, but that's the only option that I'm seeing here. Graham, in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, there should be a button that says mute.
Okay. What would the committee advisor advise?
Why don't we take a 5-minute break? I'm going to try and get Graham on the phone and help him, okay? Even if I need to go down.
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
5-minute break is fine. Yeah.
Cool. I'll try and get him on the phone. Anne, are you there?
Yeah.
Graham is going to, we rejoin the meeting. So he's leaving and he's coming back, and we think there's something that's gone wrong with his joining. He's not actually getting the same imagery up on the bottom of his screen that we've got. And what I've suggested to him is that he, when he wants to ask, he's just rejoining now, when he wants to ask a question, if it doesn't work, we need to talk to him. He can ring me and I'll put him on speakerphone, because there's nothing stopping the conversation happening easily that way. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. Appreciate what you're doing.
Tim.
Graham, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, great. Well done.
Can you hear me?
Now then, I can't get a picture of me.
We can hear you, Graham.
Oh, okay. Oh, I've achieved something here. I can't get, everybody's not showing up, that's all, but long as I can hear and you can hear me.
And it's video.
Oh, here we come now. Yeah. Now I can see who's speaking. It's showing up who's speaking. So if you want to continue it, yeah.
Good.
Right, nobody wants me to come back.
We can hear you, Anne, but we can't see you.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. Look, you've got to see the funny side of this, guys, please. Let's have a laugh. For God's sakes.
Oh, dear.
You know.
Oh.
Right.
Right, Graham, over to you.
Okay. So you can hear me now?
Oh, we can hear you, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I know I didn't support the motion from the last meeting, but I support that that motion, and that we just be part of, as we can, the process that the council's was passed at their last meeting, and we have input at every stage as we can, as it goes through the process. Yeah. So I'll reverse my for the support of the motion from our last meeting, that we support every process that the council will go through to work through 84 and 85 West Street. And we have right of having our input in as that motion was requested.
Okay, I think we might be ready to take the vote now then. So I am looking for a proposal for the motion. Do you want me to read it out again? The Greytown Community Board be kept informed at each stage of the process, and that the board is involved in the consultation process, and that the proposed outcome comes through the Greytown Community Board before assets and services and council sign.
And can I suggest that you do three different resolutions on that? Split them into three, please.
That Greytown Community Board be kept informed at each stage of the process. That was in agreement. Now, do I have a proposer for that?
Right, I can accept that. I'm quite happy for that. It's going to happen anyway.
Yeah, those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, thank you. And number two, that the board is fully involved in the consultation process.
Well, that's a given as well. So
thank you. And the seconder, those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. And the third one, that the proposed outcomes comes through the Greytown Community Board before assets and services and council sign off.
that's the one I can't agree with.
Okay. Do I have a proposal?
And I'll just say why, because that is the one that is suggesting that the Greytown Community Board is actually at a higher level than the council, and you are asking the council to get your approval before it signs something. That's not how it works.
Well, that is not what is meant by that.
The Greytown Community Board is a subset of council, not above the council.
Yeah, it's merely because the plan for 85 to 87 West Street is so important to people.
Yeah, but that's not what you're asking. You are asking to be approve it before council. That's not how this works. You are a subset of council, not above council.
Can I add something here? Everything's up for interpretation. I'm just wondering, just because we may be asking to be made aware of what is coming up does not necessarily mean that we are giving ourselves the right to make a decision, because we don't have decision-making powers, and we know that. But we would be better off knowing beforehand, so that if there are issues there that we could comment on.
The first two resolutions do exactly that.
Yes. Yeah.
The first two do exactly that. The third resolution is not required.
Okay, fair call. I'm no expert on this. I don't pretend to be one.
So I would propose that you withdraw the third one and go with the first two.
So a lot of things are open to interpretation. So this is the point of these discussions. And so it is better that we talk with each other in a civilized manner and not throwing things around, but just try to talk through and understand. You have some good points sometimes, Alistair, and we accept that. And we're not having a go at you, and we're willing to listen. So please, let's just keep this, you know.
So what I would say is that
Can I just raise an issue though? If the proposed outcome comes through assets and services and has council sign off, all you are saying to the Greytown Community Board effectively is, this is what's happening.
Yeah, but you're missing the point that the first two resolutions are consulting with you all the way through the development of that proposal.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? So the last part is actually not required if the first two are done.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
A lot of things can happen on the way between the last time someone spoke with us about something and something that's actually ending up being put on paper to go forward to something. Happens everywhere. Not accusing anyone of doing it, but it can happen. Misinterpretation, or something's forgotten, or something's fallen between two chairs. It's just perhaps an added layer of, you know, us being sure that we are having our views adequately represented. If the council during its, you know, when we're talking with councillors, if there are points that we raise that are absolutely not possible, well, okay, they wouldn't go through. But if there are things that might need tweaking from our perspective, because something might have happened in the meantime from when we last spoke with you guys, and when, you know, there might have been something that's come up that we haven't had time, or people haven't had time to deal with, there might be a chance for us to say, but hang on, what if? There's always a critical thinking aspect to these things. So we're just giving ourselves a bit of extra room and time, and it may actually end up helping you. So, you know, why not just accept it? It's no biggie. And honestly, but you just got to put these things in occasionally to give yourself some room. And that gives you some room as well. Okay?
Okay, look, time's getting on. I'm going to put this to the vote, right? That the proposed outcome comes through Greytown Community Board before Assets and Services and final council sign off. Do I have a proposal for that?
Anybody else?
And a seconder. No? Well, then that falls.
Okay.
Simone, did you second that?
I'm still trying to ascertain as to what this is. So the first two I totally get. And I'm starting to see that if those two are followed, then we're sort of there at the table understanding and knowing what's going on.
Okay, all right.
Have you got any further comments on that?
No, I'm going to withdraw the third one. Right?
Yeah,
so we have
let's just
one,
move on.
The Greytown Community Board be kept informed at each stage of the process, and secondly, that the board is fully involved in the consultation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm happy with that. Let's just move on. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just move on. First, somebody to propose it and second. All
Yeah.
those in favour, please say aye.
Okay.
Anyone against? Super. Let's pass on. Right. Presentation by local artist Rosie Doyle. It would be nice if we can make a decision tonight as to whether we accept that the murals go ahead. She's presented her concept designs for the three murals to be placed inside Greytown swimming pool. The cost for the 3 murals will be between 2,000 and 2,500. That is allowing for the wood that is used for them. So that is inclusive. The final outcome will obviously be depending on size. She's quoted for 1.2 metre panel that would cost 560 per panel. And then the cost of wood extra to that. But it may be that we decide to go for 2x2, which will make it slightly more expensive. However, if we set aside 2,500, that will cover the cost of the project. Rebecca.
Is there the opportunity to use any additional money from our beautification fund for those? Because they are really lovely and we have lots of people that use our pools, and I think that that would be a good use if we're able to do that as a suggestion.
I know where there's a spare $1,000.
Yes.
We do have money in the beautification budget. Yes, you know, I asked you last time to think of ways in which we could use the money. And personally, I think this is a really good way. I'd like to see bigger murals. If we can put
they're lovely
to get bigger murals.
I support that, Ian.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, we have plenty of money in the beautification fund, so we have nothing else earmarked at this stage.
Okay, so what are you suggesting that we would be prepared to spend on the 3 murals?
Yes. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
3,000?
Oh, well, I think she's indicated 2.5, and well, hopefully you can work within that.
Yeah, I think she's indicated 2.5. If it's going to be a little bit more, maybe we delegate to the chair and deputy chair the approval to spend up to $500 more if that's deemed to be what's needed to get this across the line.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree. So we're going to put the proposal now that we agree to fund the 2,500 for the murals at the swimming pool.
Yeah.
Yeah. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Absolutely brilliant. Okay. Number 6, the removal of.
Could we do that second resolution that the committee delegates the approval to the chair and deputy chair to approve up to $500 more if it's determined that's required for the size of the murals.
Do I have a proposal for that? Alistair, second, Shelley, those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
That goes through. Right, we are now moving to the removal of the elm trees on Wood Street. So we've heard from the speaker. I mean, I am concerned that we did lose those 6 beautiful old trees, and that there is concern that an assessment on each tree wasn't conducted, and maybe that risk mitigation options were not made. However, we do have Stefan with us tonight, and Stefan, are you able to report to talk to the report that you made?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and good evening, everyone. If I haven't met you before, I'm Stefan Corbett. I've recently joined the Council's Group Manager Operations. It's nice to meet you. It's nice to be here. Look, I think the report is clear. We tried to make it as short and concise as we could. there's working in an emergency situation, and then there's normal process. And this was a situation where we had received complaints from people about the trees. One of our officers went out and had a look at the trees, and what they saw worried them. We we approached an arborist who told us that they were structurally unsafe, that it was just a matter of time before the trees would fail, and that they would potentially fall and damage property or fall on a member of the public. We went to a consultant arborist who we work with, who knew the history of the trees, and they told us that several of them had been brought down already in 2014, that they were in very poor condition, and that they tried to have those trees taken off the notable list because of their degraded condition. You've got to make a judgment based on the best information that you've got when someone comes to you like that, and it is an emergency, and you feel as if the next very high wind that you get may bring a tree or a limb down on someone. And it is next to a kindergarten, and they had told us that they'd had large branches come down in their car park, and it was near high voltage power lines, which the trees had interfered with before. So, you make the call. We made the call to remove the trees because we genuinely believe that we had a duty to the public to protect them from harm. And that's what we do in an emergency. I mean, I think the presenter earlier said that, there hadn't been any evidence of large limbs coming down from the trees. Well, with respect, that's what we're trying to avoid. You don't want to wait until large limbs fall off trees that have a known history of being unsafe and dangerous. So, we have to act preemptively, and we have to act with the duty of care to the public in mind. If it was a normal situation, then of course, we would get a consulting arborist's report that would be peer reviewed. There'll be public consultation. All of that takes time, of course, and time was something that we didn't have in this situation because we were working under an emergency power to protect the safety of our community. So, look, I mean, no one wants to bring these beautiful trees down. We all have an investment in them. The council does. That's what the Notable Trees Register is all about. That's why we are taking an asset management approach to the trees. But if we had have not acted and we knew about the risk and someone had been hurt or killed, then there would have been a public outcry about that, and with good reason. So we did act, and that's our duty, and that's the council's responsibility. I think there's been photos bandied around of people use photos selectively, I guess. We took photos of the stumps, and we've examined the stumps. Those stumps are rotten to the core. And they show clearly that that we were vindicated in what we did. I really I think there's just a little bit of confusion around what we have to do in an emergency that we consider there's real danger, and what we do in a normal process. And I hope that comes through in the report, Chair, and I'm happy to take any comments or questions from members tonight. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Stefan. Do we have any questions from the floor? Alex.
Thank you, Stephen. So you had problems with some of these trees previously, and they were removed. can you tell me, so you removed 10 trees, is that correct? Was that?
There were 5 of these trees in one notable tree listing.
Yeah.
And 3 of we got a resource consent in 2014 to remove all 5, but there was resistance to that from the community, and a management system was put into place, and 3 of the 5 notable trees in that stand on the Wood Street frontage were removed. So this time around, the remaining 2 of that notable listing were removed with the other trees, which were just normal trees along the street front.
And in your analysis of the trunks, which is what I was trying to get at previously, what was the percentage rotten? I mean, you can really only tell the total extent when they're chopped down, so it's a post-mortem, but were you justified in your response, do you feel?
The trees were wholly rotten. I mean, they were brown right the way through to the core, and what we'd been told is that was a result of the way that the trees had been topped in the past through the management plan, and they'd been topped incorrectly, pollarded, I think is the term for it, and then they had literally filled up with dirt and water and bacteria, and then they'd been eaten from the inside out, and that was what we found when the trees were eventually felled.
Thank you, Stefan.
Any further questions from the floor?
Yeah, can I ask a question? Stefan, we've been asked to clarify for a couple of people what happens, when these trees are felled in an emergency situation before the consent process has been effected. So apparently there are regulations around a post-felling sort of consent application process, and has the council been able to do that? I think there's 2 things that you have to fulfill. Has that been done, and how easy was it? Are there problems with these sorts of things? I think, you have to notify, it's under section 330A of the RMA, and you have to advise the consent authority within 7 days of the action that's been taken. And then within 20 working days, there has to be a written application to the consent authority to tidy up the resource consents. Now, this is all bureaucratic, but is that easy to effect? I mean, has it been done, and how was it done? Who did it? Who's the consent authority? Is it council talking to council, or is it council talking to someone else, or how does that happen?
Yeah, thank you. No, you're not councillor. Do I address you as just as Shelley? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Shelley. We acted under the emergency powers of the Resource Management Act under Section 330, as you've correctly said. And what that does is it means that a resource consent isn't required to be applied for at the time, and you can act immediately under those powers. You must notify your authority that you're doing that, and in this case, you're right. It's council talking to council. So I notify my group manager and my planning manager, who are responsible for issuing the consents in another group, which we did. And then what you do is you retrospectively apply for the consent, and it's not a complicated process, especially when you've already felled the trees. Normally, if in the normal process, you would apply for the consent, and then that triggers the arborist reports and the peer review and a consultation. And the consultation actually isn't technically part of the consent, but it's something that you do as part of good practice. And so that retrospective process is what we're going through at the moment.
Okay. Well, thank you. It gives a bit of clarity around how things work. So
You're welcome.
say if somebody in a private capacity if they had a notable tree or a big, whatever on their property, and they had to go through this sort of thing, does the same thing apply, or do they have to go through different, authorities? Or what happens?
Yeah, thank you. My understanding is that all notable trees, whether they are positioned in private property or whether they're on the front of public land, all of them, the same process applies to all of them. Even private residents must apply for a resource consent and go through the normal process of applying for a permission to remove them.
And if they do, and they're doing everything right, and that tree on their property falls and does damage before the consent can be allocated or given, what happens? How does that all pan out? People are injured, or property's damaged or something. I mean,
it's a very good question. I think I don't know the answer to that question. I know that if you're aware of a danger in a tree that you're responsible for, whether you're responsible for that tree as council and it's on public land, or whether you're a landowner and there's a danger there to people's lives, and you don't act, then I know that might be quite different to something happening while you were attempting to try and do the right thing. And then that's where we found ourselves. The advice we were getting was that I think the report said something like that, it's just a matter of time before those trees fail. And if there was a significant wind event, which actually, if you remember, there was soon after we acted, then that would increase the likelihood of those trees coming down. So, that's where we were.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Stefan.
Thank you for that, Stefan. Rebecca.
Thanks, Stephen. I'm just really interested to make sure that we've got a good process going forward. And I know that we haven't had necessarily the best process or the most robust process. So how are we getting on with that in order that we don't have these kind of issues in the future, I guess?
And are you talking about, I think Rebecca, it's important, Councillor, it's important to distinguish between what happens in an emergency under emergency powers.
Sorry, let me clarify. Yeah, I absolutely understand the distinction under the Resource Management Act. I'm actually asking for clarity around a process and making sure that as a council we actually have a good process for dealing with trees. And I mean, we can look at the example, if we had a consent back in 2014 to do something with these trees, why didn't we do it then? And the management plan that was put in effect for those trees clearly didn't do much or wasn't given effect to at all. So I guess what I'm saying is, how are we at with our process?
Yeah, thank you. I think we've learned quite a lot from this issue in Wood Street about what an improved process would look like. I've started an internal review of our process with the intent of having a standard operating procedure put together where any staff member confronted with this same situation would really understand their obligations and there be a solid process mapped out. I'm very keen to share that process with this team and also with others that have an interest in our tree policy, and so that we do have clear process and it's robust in its nature. So there's that, and yeah, I think also making sure that our planning team leads this kind of activity rather than our operations leading it. I think that was an important thing that I learned through this process, that the planning team should really be the first people and the most responsible people in a situation like this, and providing us with advice. Whereas, and it seemed that what happened to us was operations were leading it. So there was I think there's definitely an opportunity to do a lessons learned here, and we will do that. And we'd like to do that with you as well.
Oh, that's excellent, because Greytown is known as Greentown. It's one of its nicknames, and we have so many beautiful trees here. It would just be wonderful to keep that. And I sort of think about young Amy here, and she might want to raise her family here in the future, and I'm sure that one of the things that she likes and is really associated with is all the beautiful trees and the heritage value of those as well. So
big fan of greenery. I've had kids my age talk about the fact that even when Kiranui took a couple of trees down, it was a real shame. Like what they've done is really nice, but it's not the same. So the more trees the better is my vote.
Yeah. And I think just on that note, is there a proposal to do anything more with any trees in that area, replanting, and that maybe we could have some other nice trees that are potentially selected somewhere to replace the ones that were removed? You take out a tree, you replace it with another one.
Yeah, that's also something I was going to bring up as well, Stefan. It would be nice to think that there was going to be replacement trees in the street.
Thank you, Councillor and Chair. I think we're certainly very open to what we do in terms of replacing the trees and keeping that line of trees keeping that line of trees protected and planted. So yeah, absolutely.
Good. Can you just answer me this question? Once the sixth tree removed?
No. Still one there.
My advice I have is that 6 trees were removed. It's a little complicated because there were double boughs, but the information I have is that we removed 6 trees. So there aren't plans at the moment to remove any other trees. I think we've done what we wanted to do there.
Right, because we heard that there were 5 trees, that were diseased. But the question's been put to me. Well, why were 6 trees removed?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for that. The instructions that we give our contractors, and I must say there's been quite a lot of quite a bit of misinformation, and it's obviously a topic that's very close to people's hearts. And we're certainly doing our best to protect the trees, and we really do understand how important they are and what an asset they are, a taonga they are for the region. I mean, I want to make that really clear. And the instructions that we provide our contractors are to, only remove trees that represent an imminent danger, that must be removed to protect public safety. So that is the principle under which we operate and we operated here.
Okay, I have been asked, that we work with GTAG, which is obviously very, very concerned with trees in Greytown. And, both ourselves and GTAG would be very grateful if we could know of any proposed scheduled works to notable and council-owned trees around Greytown. It would be useful to know so that when we get inquiries or complaints in regards to such works, we know what's happening.
Yeah, and thank you, Chair. And I think that certainly has to be part of a standard operating procedure that that communities that will be affected by scheduled works get early advice and are consulted early. And it's certainly my intention that would happen in a non-emergency situation.
Any further questions or comments on that issue? Thank you very much, Stefan, for coming
Thank you
tonight and answering that, please. Right, now we've got the issue of additional dog poo bins in Greytown. Do I have a mover to approve 3,000 to install 2 new dog poo bins in Greytown to be funded from the Beautification Fund?
And we were asked, by a ratepayer a couple of meetings ago to do this, and we have basically agreed. Excuse me. You're asking for what, 3,000? 3,000 plus GST. Plus GST, so that's going to take it up another 15% for each one. I personally think, yes, if we can do that, we ought to, because I've heard many people around the place in different parts of Greytown who are concerned about the dog, droppings around the place. So do I have some support to get this through if we can get 2 and just put them?
Do we have a second for that?
And I would like, and I would like to know the location of the proposed.
The location will be worked through with the council, but will be within the Greytown city.
Okay.
Itself.
Do you know how many we have now?
2.
We have 2 now.
How many have we got at the moment? I can't tell you offhand. No.
Bryce would have that.
Yeah.
But there's been problems down West Street, down Kempton, down parts of Papawai, and you perhaps have problems down your end. I don't know, but we can talk about that. Okay, there's no concrete designated place. I think we go for what's best.
Yeah,
so
I'm not suggesting. I'm not suggesting. I can tell you what happens down my street or road is that people don't pick it up.
I do. Okay, so if we can move the 3,000 with a report back to the next meeting about where they will be placed. Yeah. Proposer, Shelley, seconder. Thank you, Rebecca. Those in favour?
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone against? Yeah. Thank you. Okay, the last topic is just that I've asked for us to consider other projects in the beautification budget, and what I'd like to do in the next grapevine is to ask Greytown residents if they'd like to put forward ideas for the spending of this money to our next meeting.
Sorry.
What we'll be doing is asking the community if they have any schemes within our beautification budget that they would like to put forward for consideration.
Yeah, I support that.
Yeah. Graham, seconder. Okay, those in favour please say yes.
Yes.
Thank you. That will go in the grapevine.
Yeah, I was going to say the grapevine, but we also need stuff like that put on the website. As many places as possible. So we do need a website specialist here. So if anyone can do that for us, if we put a blurb out.
We can put it on our Greytown Facebook page as well.
Yeah. Website, don't you? No? No. Right. Okay. I'll find that.
Can I make a suggestion, Anne? It would be very easy for one of our communications people to put a post up on our council, excuse me, Facebook page, which can then be shared to our Greytown Community Board Facebook page as well, which is quite widely shared amongst others.
Yeah, because we need to get stuff out there.
Good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's a good idea. I'll follow that through. Agreed?
Yep.
Yes.
Right. Okay. We are now moving to item 8, information reports from Chief Executive and staff reports. Do I have a mover to receive the reports? Seconder? All those in favour, please raise your hand. Motion is carried. Are there any questions or clarification you want to ask on the report?
No, not really.
No? Okay. Action items report. Do I have a mover to receive the action items report? And a seconder? Those in favour? Please raise your hand. Anyone against? Right.
And I've just got a question about one of those actions.
Yes.
120, about the renaming of Underhill Road. When's that going to be? Are we going to have any more information on that?
I'm looking at that. Didn't they say they were in the process of doing the report on it to come back? That has been going on for absolutely ages.
Yeah, and I raised that at the Assets and Services Committee the other day. It is in progress, is the answer.
Been going on from the 7th of the 2nd 19 to the 17th of the 9th 21, 2.5 years.
Yeah, it is in progress, and I was told at the Assets and Services there'll be a report coming to the Greytown Community Board shortly.
Layout plans to be provided to the next meeting, it says. So let's hope we're not holding our breath for too long. Yeah, okay. Anything else from the actions report?
No.
We've got the design of the new Welcome to Greytown signs following consultation on the 2021 to 2031 long-term plan. I mean, I'm concerned about this because we've been wanting to go ahead and put our own signs up for the last 18 months, and we've got the money sat there doing nothing. It does concern me slightly that the council was saying it didn't have any money, so where's the money going to come from for the signs? Do we have the mayor here?
No, he's gone.
Alistair, do you know anything about this?
No.
Okay, all right.
I don't either, Ian, sorry.
Okay, it's just sad that it seems to be stagnating. Do you know?
You've got it in your chair's report for Alex to come back to you on it.
Yeah. Okay.
So just have to wait till he comes back to you.
Oh, well, yeah, all right. Right. Anything else on the actions report?
And this is not actually in the action report, and I apologize. I hope I'm not acting out of turn. But while we've got Stefan here, can I just ask about the e-waste issue that had been raised by a concerned ratepayer? And Stefan was very helpful. I had connected with you, Stefan, and thank you. And you gave me a good answer, which I have relayed back to that person. But you said that you might be in a position to talk with other councils or other places about the whole e-waste disposal issue. Have you got any further wisdom that you can sort of give us about the whole e-waste problem? Because some people are quite concerned about having to travel up to Carterton or down to Martinborough to get rid of their e-waste. And there's a suggestion amongst us earlier on that maybe the Lions could help out with some sort of community-based, resolution. I don't know. But have you got anything else that you can tell us about that whole e-waste problem? What constraints you have, how you have to deal with it, if you can or if you can't?
Yeah, thank you. I don't have a lot more to report. As you've noted, Shelley, people who want to get rid of their e-waste are able to do that in Martinborough or in Casterton, and you know that's a bit of a drive, but at least there are two places in our region where you can rid yourself of e-waste. Obviously, moving having them drop e-waste at a transfer station that doesn't have a resource consent to deal with them would mean that we would have to employ people to bring in bins and forklifts and manage the movement of that e-waste between points in the region. Now, that's at ratepayers' expense, and as you'll understand at the moment, we're trying not to add anything to the bill for ratepayers. So at the moment, really, I don't have much more to report. I was going to speak with other councils in the region, including Masterton, just to get a little bit more information, but I haven't progressed that yet.
You've been busy.
I have been a little bit, just getting my feet under the desk still. But the next possible chance I get, I will raise that with colleagues from other councils.
Thank you, appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you for that, Stephen. Right, we're moving on to 3 income and expenditure report. Do I have a mover to receive the report for the period ending 31st of October 2021? Yeah, and a seconder. Okay, those in favour, please raise your hand. Okay. Anyone against? Now, there are several items in the committed funds that are just lying there, remaining commitment. And rather than going through them all line by line, you will see if you look at the committed funds that there is the original commitment, the money spent to date, and the remaining commitment. And in most of those cases, that remaining commitment can be returned to be used elsewhere. For example, community donations for barrel maintenance, we've got 2,469 left over. Purchase of flag truck system for Main Street, we've got 1,312 left over. Purchase of a further set of flags for Main Street, we've got 127 left over. And I can go down line by line and say that, you know, that money that has been left over really should be returned to the beautification budget to be used elsewhere. Do you want me to go through it line by line, or can you give me permission to work with Katrina to move that money back to the beautification budget?
Work with Katrina.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're happy with that?
Yeah, I support that.
That was a bit of time, thank you. We now move to the financial assistance report, pages 57 and 58. Do I have a mover to receive the report? And a seconder? Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you. Now then, we've got a grant application from Greytown Swim Club. Have you all had the opportunity to look at that application?
Yep.
Do I have a mover to approve the application? And a seconder? Thank you. Moved by Alistair and seconded by Rebecca. The money is 765 for the starter equipment. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Anyone against? That has been agreed. Let's move to 8.5, the meeting schedule report. That's the adoption of the 2022 schedule of ordinary meetings. Do I have a mover to receive the report and a seconder? Thank you. All those in favour, please say aye. Anyone opposed? What do we think about returning to the proposed 6-weekly cycle? Anybody against that? Shelley, did you want to say something?
Oh, I'm all for it, because I think we can get a lot more done. We can meet more regularly, talk more. It's better.
I agree.
Yeah.
So are you moving that, Shelley?
Okay, I'll move it.
Do we have a seconder? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against? Right, that is passed. Do I have a mover to delegate to the Chief Executive the ability to alter the schedule of ordinary meetings in consultation with the Community Board Chair as required? Move Rebecca, second Alistair. Those in favour, please show hands. That has been, the motion is carried. Thank you. Do I have a mover to agree that we continue to start the meeting at 6 o'clock?
Yep.
Moved Rebecca, seconded Alistair. Those in favour, thank you. The motion is carried. Now we have 8.6 financial assistance. That's the extraordinary business with
Sorry, Anne. So, Anne, there's just one thing from your chair's report. You need to remove one of your recommendations, and that was to get a report on the tree. That was your recommendation 5.
That's correct.
You need to remove that from it because we've done that.
Already provided that. And thank you for doing it so quickly. Back to the community board, Stefan. We really appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. So we've got
the cobblestones.
The cobblestones report. What does everyone think about the grant application for cobblestones? They've asked for 1,000.
I'll have to abstain from that conflict of interest.
Yeah. Do I have somebody to move that we give them 1,000? That's Simon, and the seconder, Shelley. Those in favour, please show hands. Thank you. The motion is carried. And I think we have come to the end of the meeting. Can I just check with the committee advisor? I think she's gone home. Hello?
She's there.
The end of the meeting.
I'm still here. And we skipped over the actions from community public participation. I think most of it was covered, but just double checking perhaps that there wasn't anything that was missed from that. And then I think that covers off everything.
I thought they were all raised in the chair's report, but I may be wrong. Could you just have a quick look?
No, we've asked Stefan to have a look at what we need to know about the implications of the floodplain for people's houses in that. So I'm not quite sure what that means for you, Stefan, whether you'll need to provide a report or something, because no doubt if they change the floodplain from when houses were built to put houses more at risk, there'll be all sorts of issues of, I would suspect, of compensation and so on and so forth, wouldn't there?
Yeah, look, I think as was raised earlier, this is really an issue for the regional authority, and we're all in the position of making our submissions on the impact of this for us. So I'm happy to take some questions forward. I might need a little bit of help on exactly what it is that I'm supposed to be asking the regional authority, but perhaps I can circle back with you, Alistair, and do that.
Yeah, look, I'm very happy to do that. We can do that tomorrow or something. But it's about providing some clarity to the residents in the areas that may well be affected by changing in floodplains.
Yeah, which I totally get, but I think that's probably something that will come from the regional council.
It
But
is exactly where it will come from.
Happy to help facilitate that if I can. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the residents will probably get more answers if our council asks the question rather than them asking as individuals.
And can I pick up on that? Actually, that was part of the submission of the Greytown Community Board, Stefan. So it might be helpful to go back and just review the submission of the Greytown Community Board on that. And of course, we've got the details of the people that live down Hupanui Road that may have additional concerns, but you know, our authority doesn't extend to telling GW what to do. It only extends insofar as having the conversation and making some recommendations about whether extra care needs to be taken in certain places or additional protections. So, and that's more or less what we were asking for.
Yeah,
I'm happy to talk to you about that too, Stefan, having been part of the Waiahine Action Group.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you.
Rebecca's
no, I'll
get one to talk to rather than me.
All right. Well, look, I'll circle back to you, Councillor, and I'll get I'll dig out that report and read up as well.
Happy to help.
And also, after Anita's presentation, we as the board offered to facilitate a meeting between her and John Boone and the WAG team. So we'll still do that just for her, to give her hopefully some more information, more confidence. So the two won't necessarily contradict each other. But you're happy with that too, because we did say we'd do that.
Shelley, could I make a suggestion on that rather than do a sort of one-on-one, if we make the offer to all the residents of that area to speak to John, because John's obviously a busy person and he might be able to answer, rather than answer individual questions one at a time all the time, if we could get the residents of that affected area together, perhaps for John and his team to talk one-on-one, you know, as a group.
No, it's not a silly idea. Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll have individuals.
Yeah.
So it would be good to do it.
We'll see what we can do. What John prefers, actually, because there may be specific things to a person's property and he may want to talk with them specifically and not do it as a group. So, hey, we'll just see what he likes too, what he prefers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Katie, have you had a chance to have a look, see if there's any recommendations that we've not covered off?
I believe you have covered them all. I don't see anything that's missing, no.
No, I certainly put a tick besides them. Okay, well, thank you very much for your presence here. Oh, Brian.
Yes, do you know if there's been a decision made regarding the footpath for Bidwell's cutting to the Five Rivers?
Yes, there has. The last council meeting, it was adopted. So, so if you have a look at the council papers that are available, the final design was approved at the last council meeting.
Okay.
So one of the things around that was that they were looking at doing much deeper parks than were originally proposed to manage some of those safety issues that you actually raised.
Yes.
Yeah. So so they've been back to Kuranui, spoken to Kuranui, taken your suggestions on board, and made slight changes into how they're working it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Right. Anything else before we close the meeting? That's everyone. Oh, Amy.
I just want to say thank you for having me, and it's been great being part of this team for the last 2 years or so, and good luck to everyone is all I can say.
Well,
good luck for the end of the exams, Amy, and good luck for next year for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Every success for the future.
Yeah.
So, hey, our next meeting is what? February, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, well, have a good holiday. Merry Christmas and all that stuff, because wow, you know, yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Everyone, the council get together this year because we'll be wanting to save money.
Thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to take my leave before my cat destroys the laptop.
Likewise.